Pitch Anything, an innovative method for presenting, persuading, and winning the deal. By Oren Klaff. Comprehensive summary. Introduction. Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff presents a revolutionary approach to pitching and persuasion based on neuroscience research and evolutionary psychology, challenging conventional presentation methods by demonstrating how the human brain structure determines how people receive, process, and respond to pitched ideas. Drawing from his extensive experience raising over $400 million in capital and analyzing thousands of successful and failed pitches, Klaff argues that most presentations fail because they ignore the neurological realities of how decision-makers actually evaluate information and make choices. The book introduces the concept of frame control as the fundamental skill underlying all successful persuasion, explaining how the human brain's three-part structure, consisting of the primitive croc brain, the emotional midbrain, and the rational neocortex, processes pitched information in ways that contradict traditional presentation logic. Rather than leading with detailed analysis and logical arguments that appeal to the rational mind, Klaff demonstrates how effective pitches must first capture attention and establish status through the croc brain before progressing to emotional engagement and finally rational consideration. For entrepreneurs seeking investment, sales professionals presenting to prospects, or anyone needing to influence important decisions, Pitch Anything offers both neurological understanding of persuasion and practical methodologies for creating presentations that align with how the brain naturally processes and evaluates new information, resulting in dramatically improved success rates across diverse pitching contexts. Overview of the book. Klaff structures his work around the STRONG method, a systematic approach to pitching that addresses each component of effective persuasion while respecting the neurological realities of human decision-making. The book begins by establishing the neuroscience foundation, explaining how the brain's evolutionary development creates predictable patterns for information processing that most presenters ignore to their detriment. Early chapters introduce frame control as the master skill that determines whether audiences perceive pitchers as high-status experts worthy of attention or low-status supplicants seeking favors. Middle sections systematically develop each element of the STRONG method, setting the frame through confident positioning, telling the story through compelling narrative, revealing the intrigue through mystery and curiosity, offering the prize through value demonstration, nailing the hook point through emotional connection, and getting the decision through strategic pressure. Advanced chapters address specific challenges, including handling objections, creating urgency, and maintaining frame control during hostile or skeptical audiences. Throughout these progressions, Klaff balances theoretical understanding with practical application, providing specific language patterns, behavioral demonstrations, and real-world examples from high-stakes situations, including venture capital presentations, merger negotiations, and complex sales scenarios. The book concludes with integration guidance that helps readers develop their personal pitching style while maintaining the neurological principles that determine persuasion effectiveness. This structure creates both comprehensive understanding of persuasion psychology and systematic methodology for implementing these insights across diverse professional contexts where influence and decision-making matter. Key concepts in Pitch Anything. The triune brain. Understanding your audience's neurology. Klaff establishes the neurological foundation for effective pitching by explaining how the human brain's evolutionary development creates three distinct processing systems that filter and evaluate information in predictable sequences. He explores the croc brain, reptilian complex, as the primitive survival mechanism that controls attention, threat assessment, and initial decision-making, explaining how this ancient system serves as gatekeeper for all incoming information before higher brain functions can engage. Through neuroscience research, Klaff demonstrates how the croc brain operates on simple criteria, including novelty detection, threat assessment, and pattern recognition, making it highly responsive to unusual presentations while rejecting boring or complex information as potential threats to limited attention resources. He examines the midbrain, limbic system, as the emotional processing center that evaluates information for personal relevance and emotional significance, determining whether ideas merit deeper consideration based on feelings rather than logic. Claff explores the neocortex as the rational analysis system that handles complex reasoning, detailed evaluation, and logical decision-making, but only after information successfully passes through the earlier filtering systems. Through practical examples, he demonstrates how traditional pitching approaches fail by attempting to engage the neocortex directly with logical arguments and detailed analysis, while ignoring the croc brain's need for attention-grabbing novelty and the midbrain's requirement for emotional relevance. Claff provides specific techniques for addressing each brain system in sequence, including attention-grabbing openings that satisfy the croc brain's novelty requirements, emotional storytelling that engages midbrain interest, and logical support that enables neocortex validation. Throughout this discussion, Claff emphasizes that effective pitching must work with rather than against neurological realities, making brain-based approaches more effective than traditional methods that ignore how audiences actually process information. Frame control, the master skill of persuasion. Claff explores frame control as the fundamental dynamic underlying all successful persuasion, examining how every interaction involves competing frames where the strongest frame absorbs weaker ones to determine the interaction's outcome and meaning. He defines frames as unconscious mental structures that organize perception, interpretation, and response to social situations, making frame awareness and control essential for anyone seeking to influence others effectively. Through analysis of high-stakes negotiations and presentations, Claff demonstrates how frame battles occur constantly, but unconsciously, with participants either establishing dominance or falling into subordinate positions based on their frame strength and awareness. He identifies several common frames that undermine pitching effectiveness, including the analyst frame that focuses on technical details rather than big-picture vision, the time frame that creates artificial urgency, favoring the audience, and the charity frame that positions the pitcher as supplicant seeking help rather than expert offering value. Claff introduces powerful counterframes, including the power frame that establishes authority and expertise, the prize frame that positions the opportunity as valuable and scarce, and the intrigue frame that creates curiosity and engagement rather than resistance. He provides specific techniques for frame establishment and maintenance, including confident body language that projects authority, strategic storytelling that demonstrates competence, and verbal patterns that redirect conversation toward favorable territory when audiences attempt frame control. Throughout this discussion, Claff emphasizes that frame control operates primarily through unconscious social dynamics rather than conscious manipulation, making authentic confidence and genuine value more effective than artificial techniques or aggressive behavior. This frame mastery creates the foundation for all subsequent persuasion by establishing the social context within which audiences evaluate both the pitcher and the pitched opportunity. The strong method, systematic pitch architecture. Claff introduces his strong methodology as systematic approach for structuring pitches that align with neurological processing while building persuasive momentum through logical progression from attention-getting to decision-making. He explores each component as essential element that serves specific psychological functions while contributing to overall persuasive impact through cumulative effect. The S, setting the frame, involves establishing authority, expertise, and social positioning that creates receptive audience mindset while preventing defensive reactions or status competitions that undermine message reception. Claff demonstrates how frame setting requires both confident presentation and strategic positioning that makes the audience want to hear more rather than feeling pressured or manipulated. The T, telling the story, provides narrative structure that engages emotional processing while demonstrating competence through past success examples, market understanding, and clear vision for future opportunity. He explores how effective stories combine personal credibility with market insight and competitive advantage to create compelling case for audience engagement. The R, revealing the intrigue, introduces elements of mystery, scarcity, or competitive tension that maintain attention while preventing premature evaluation or rejection based on incomplete information. Claff shows how intrigue creates forward momentum by making audiences want to learn more rather than making immediate decisions based on partial understanding. The O, offering the prize, positions the opportunity as valuable and limited rather than available to everyone, creating desire through exclusivity and qualification requirements that make audience members want to be chosen. The N, nailing the hook point, establishes emotional connection between the opportunity and audience's personal interests or aspirations, making the decision personally meaningful rather than merely logical. The G, getting the decision, creates appropriate pressure for commitment while providing clear next steps that make agreement natural and immediate. Throughout this methodology, Claff emphasizes that each component must flow naturally into the next, while serving the overall objective of moving audiences from skepticism to enthusiasm to commitment. Hot cognition, emotional decision-making. Claff examines hot cognition, the brain state where emotional engagement drives decision-making, as the optimal condition for persuasion, contrasting it with cold cognition, where analytical thinking dominates and creates resistance to new ideas or commitments. He explores how hot cognition occurs when audiences become emotionally invested in outcomes, making them more receptive to persuasion while reducing the critical analysis that often prevents decision-making. Through neuroscience research, Claff demonstrates how emotional engagement activates neural pathways that facilitate agreement, while analytical states trigger skepticism and delay tactics that work against persuasion objectives. He provides specific techniques for creating hot cognition, including time pressure that prevents overanalysis, scarcity elements that create competitive desire, and personal relevance that makes opportunities emotionally meaningful rather than merely interesting. Claff explores how storytelling contributes to hot cognition by engaging imagination and emotional processing rather than analytical evaluation, making narratives more persuasive than logical arguments or detailed presentations. He addresses how to maintain hot cognition throughout presentations by avoiding information overload that triggers analytical thinking, managing time to prevent cooling periods, and maintaining tension through strategic information revelation rather than comprehensive disclosure. Claff examines how different personality types achieve hot cognition through different triggers, with some responding to competitive pressure while others require personal connection or social validation. Throughout this discussion, Claff emphasizes that hot cognition represents the natural decision-making state rather than manipulation, making emotional engagement both ethical and effective for serving audience interests while achieving persuasion objectives. This hot cognition framework explains why some presentations generate immediate enthusiasm and commitment, while others produce prolonged analysis that rarely leads to positive decisions. The prize frame, positioning value and scarcity. Claff explores the prize frame as psychological positioning that transforms pitched opportunities from available options into valuable prizes that audiences must qualify to receive, fundamentally altering the power dynamic and decision-making process. He demonstrates how traditional pitching creates supplicant-benefactor relationships, where pitchers appear to need something from audiences, while prize framing establishes expert-client dynamics, where audiences compete for limited opportunities. Through examples from investment presentations and sales scenarios, Claff shows how prize framing operates through several mechanisms, including qualification criteria that make opportunities exclusive, scarcity elements that create urgency and competitive desire, and status positioning that makes association with the opportunity desirable for social reasons. He provides specific techniques for prize frame establishment, including setting qualification standards that audiences must meet, demonstrating selectivity about partnerships or investments, and highlighting the limited nature of opportunities or time availability. Claff addresses how prize framing requires authentic value and genuine selectivity rather than artificial scarcity or manipulative qualification, making real expertise and legitimate opportunity limitation essential for credible prize positioning. He explores how prize frames affect audience psychology by activating competitive instincts, social proof mechanisms, and desire for exclusive access that creates natural momentum toward positive decisions. Claff examines how to maintain prize framing throughout interactions by avoiding desperate or needy behaviors, maintaining confidence even during challenging questions, and consistently positioning the opportunity as valuable rather than available to everyone. Throughout this discussion, Claff emphasizes that prize framing serves both parties by ensuring proper fit between opportunities and qualified participants while creating decision-making environments that facilitate commitment rather than endless analysis. This prize psychology explains why exclusive opportunities often generate more interest than broadly available ones, even when the underlying value remains constant. Status and social dynamics. The power game. Claff examines how social status dynamics unconsciously influence all persuasion attempts, with audiences naturally deferring to higher status individuals while resisting influence from those perceived as lower status regardless of message quality or logical merit. He explores how status operates through multiple dimensions, including expertise demonstration, confidence projection, social proof presentation, and resource control that collectively create perceptions of relative position within social hierarchies. Through analysis of successful and failed presentations, Claff demonstrates how status battles occur within the first few minutes of interactions, with winners establishing authority that enhances subsequent persuasion, while losers face uphill struggles regardless of their message strength. He identifies common status mistakes, including overeagerness that suggests desperation, excessive accommodation that appears weak, and detailed explanations that seem defensive rather than confident. Claff provides specific techniques for status establishment, including confident entry and positioning, strategic use of silence and pacing, demonstration of expertise through casual references rather than formal credentials, and subtle displays of selectivity or busy schedules that suggest high demand. He explores how different industries and contexts require different status signals, with technical fields requiring expertise demonstration, while relationship-based industries emphasize social connections and results. Claff addresses how to maintain high status throughout challenging interactions, including hostile questions, objections, or attempts to diminish credibility through various tactics that audiences sometimes employ consciously or unconsciously. Throughout this discussion, Claff emphasizes that status dynamics reflect natural human psychology rather than artificial manipulation, making authentic confidence and genuine expertise more effective than manufactured authority or aggressive behavior. This status awareness enables more effective positioning while avoiding the common mistakes that undermine credibility and reduce persuasion effectiveness. Handling objections. The push-pull dynamic. Claff explores objection handling through the push-pull dynamic that maintains frame control while addressing legitimate concerns without appearing defensive or argumentative. He challenges traditional objection handling that attempts to overcome resistance through logical arguments, demonstrating how this approach often strengthens objections by engaging analytical thinking that generates additional concerns and delays decision-making. Through practical examples, Claff shows how effective objection handling operates through frame maintenance rather than direct confrontation, using techniques that acknowledge concerns while redirecting attention toward value and opportunity rather than problems or limitations. He introduces the push-pull method that combines brief acknowledgement of objections with redirection toward positive aspects, creating movement away from analytical evaluation toward emotional engagement and commitment. Claff provides specific language patterns for objection handling, including phrases that acknowledge without agreeing, questions that redirect focus toward benefits rather than problems, and stories that reframe concerns as advantages or competitive differentiators. He explores how different types of objections require different responses, with price concerns requiring value demonstration, timing objections needing urgency creation, and authority questions demanding credibility establishment rather than defensive explanations. Claff addresses how objection timing affects handling effectiveness, demonstrating how prevention through comprehensive presentation often works better than correction after concerns arise, while also providing techniques for addressing unexpected objections that emerge despite thorough preparation. Throughout this discussion, Claff emphasizes that objections often signal interest rather than rejection, making proper handling an opportunity for deeper engagement rather than obstacle to overcome. This push-pull framework maintains forward momentum while addressing legitimate concerns, creating collaboration rather than confrontation that serves both parties' interests while advancing toward positive decisions. Creating urgency and scarcity. Time pressure psychology. CLAF examines how urgency and scarcity create psychological pressure that facilitates decision-making by preventing the extended analysis that often leads to decision paralysis or competitive shopping that delays commitment indefinitely. He explores how time pressure activates emotional decision-making systems while reducing analytical thinking that generates additional concerns, questions, or requests for more information that work against persuasion objectives. Through neuroscience research, CLAF demonstrates how scarcity triggers primitive acquisition instincts that create competitive desire and immediate action orientation, making limited opportunities more attractive than abundant ones, even when underlying value remains constant. He provides specific techniques for creating legitimate urgency, including market timing factors that create natural deadlines, capacity limitations that restrict opportunity availability, and competitive situations that make delay costly rather than beneficial. CLAF addresses how artificial urgency often backfires by appearing manipulative, making authentic time pressure and genuine scarcity more effective than manufactured deadlines or false limitation claims. He explores how different audiences respond to different urgency triggers, with analytical types requiring logical reasons for time pressure, while emotional personalities respond to competitive or social factors that make immediate action desirable. CLAF examines how to communicate urgency effectively without appearing pushy or desperate, using techniques that present timing as market reality rather than sales pressure that serves only the pitcher's interests. Throughout this discussion, CLAF emphasizes that effective urgency serves audience interests by preventing missed opportunities while creating decision-making environments that facilitate commitment rather than endless deliberation. This urgency psychology explains why limited time offers often generate more response than open-ended opportunities, even when the underlying value proposition remains identical. The hook point, creating emotional connection. CLAF explores the hook point as the moment when audiences become emotionally invested in pitched opportunities, transforming from passive listeners into engaged participants who want successful outcomes rather than merely evaluating options objectively. He examines how hook points occur when presentations connect with audience members' personal interests, aspirations, or competitive instincts in ways that make opportunities personally meaningful rather than merely professionally interesting. Through analysis of successful presentations, CLAF demonstrates how hook points require understanding individual audience members' motivations, concerns, and desired outcomes rather than assuming generic business interests or logical evaluation criteria. He provides specific techniques for hook point creation, including personal relevance demonstration that shows how opportunities address individual goals, competitive positioning that appeals to winning instincts, and social proof that satisfies belonging needs while reducing decision-making risk. CLAF explores how different personality types achieve hook points through different mechanisms, with achievement-oriented individuals responding to competitive advantages, while relationship-focused people need social validation and consensus support. He addresses how timing affects hook point effectiveness, demonstrating how early emotional engagement creates receptivity for subsequent logical information, while late emotional appeals often feel manipulative or desperate. CLAF examines how to recognize when hook points occur through audience behavior changes, including increased attention, forward-leaning, detailed questions, and timeline discussions that indicate mental ownership of outcomes. Throughout this discussion, CLAF emphasizes that authentic hook points emerge from genuine alignment between opportunities and audience interests rather than emotional manipulation or artificial connection creation. This hook point mastery creates the emotional foundation necessary for commitment, while ensuring that decisions serve both parties' genuine interests and long-term objectives. Integration and advanced applications. In concluding sections, CLAF addresses how to integrate the various elements of effective pitching into cohesive presentations while adapting techniques for different contexts, audiences, and objectives beyond basic sales or investment scenarios. He explores how the principles apply across diverse situations, including job interviews, partnership negotiations, team presentations, and even personal relationships where influence and persuasion play important roles. CLAF provides guidance for customizing approaches based on audience size, formality level, cultural context, and decision-making authority while maintaining the neurological principles that determine persuasion effectiveness regardless of specific circumstances. He addresses advanced challenges including hostile audiences, competitive presentations, and complex decision-making processes that involve multiple stakeholders with different interests and evaluation criteria. CLAF explores how to maintain frame control and persuasion effectiveness during extended processes while adapting to feedback and changing circumstances without compromising core positioning or message integrity. He provides frameworks for continuous improvement, including presentation analysis, feedback integration, and skill development that enhance persuasion capability over time through systematic practice and refinement. Throughout this discussion, CLAF emphasizes that mastery requires understanding principles rather than memorizing techniques, making authentic application more important than perfect execution of specific methods or scripts. This integration framework enables sustainable improvement while maintaining authenticity and genuine value creation that serves both immediate persuasion objectives and long-term relationship building across diverse professional and personal contexts. Conclusion: Pitch Anything offers a revolutionary framework for persuasion and presentation that aligns with neuroscientific understanding of how people actually process information and make decisions, challenging conventional approaches while providing systematic methodology for dramatically improved influence effectiveness. Through CLAF's integration of brain science, practical experience, and systematic technique development, the book provides both theoretical foundation and actionable methods for creating presentations that work with rather than against natural human psychology. The work's particular value lies in its scientific grounding that explains why certain approaches work while others fail, enabling readers to understand principles rather than merely copying techniques without comprehension. For entrepreneurs seeking investment, sales professionals presenting to prospects, executives leading teams, or anyone needing to influence important decisions, this book provides the neurological insights and practical tools necessary for achieving persuasion objectives while serving audience interests through authentic value creation. By positioning effective pitching as applied neuroscience rather than manipulative technique, CLAF creates sustainable influence capability that enhances both professional effectiveness and personal integrity through alignment with how the human brain naturally evaluates opportunities and makes commitments.